begging for my family's life. And I'll leave it at that and take a break.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust to protect my wealth with gold and silver. Call 800-BUICOIN. I'm the only one in the media who understands context. I could give you some context. This kid is the Charles Manson of our time. Write it down. You heard it on the Savage Nation. He has done, by killing these innocent people, exactly what Charles Manson tried to do with the Tate and LaBianca murders, which is to start an apocalyptic war between the races, between blacks and whites. That's what he said he wanted to do, by the way. Did you know that? He wanted to trigger the helter-skelter scenario. Manson wrote that. This kid wanted to do the same thing. But you don't know context. I do. Luckily, I have spanned a number of decades so I can put two and two together. Let's pray to God that cool heads prevail. I'm not so sure they will, by the way. I'm not so sure cooler heads will prevail. I'm waiting for Al Sharpton to show up and throw some gasoline on the fire. Surprised they kept him on a leash. Richard on KSFO, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no guns in churches. That's my opinion.
Well, wait a minute. This guy had a gun in a church. He killed these people because there were no other guns.
That's all right. They were where they should have been, and...
Wait, what's all right? Them getting killed was all right?
No, it's not all right, but if you bring guns into churches, then churches are no longer sacred places. Now, if the wicked want to bring guns into churches, then they can.
Well, then you ought to put a metal detector at the front door. How about that? Do you think that's a good idea?
No. Churches have to...
Then you're living in a dream world. You're living in a dream world. You still haven't learned anything from this event then. So it could happen again tomorrow. No guns in churches. Why? Why? Why shouldn't people be able to defend themselves?
It's for the same reason you don't cuss in church. Now listen.
My friend, listen to me. There are Christians on the battlefield right now who carry Bibles and believe in God. So being able to carry a gun and being a Christian are not two different. You don't have, understand you don't have to be an atheist to carry a gun?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that churches are sanctuaries, and there's...
Well, he invaded a sanctuary and killed 9 innocent, beautiful souls.
That's right.
And had there been someone in there with a gun, they would have killed him after the first person was shot, or even before it.
I belong to a church where the Second Amendment is fully supported, and most of the members have weapons, but I've never seen a gun in church, and I don't think I ever will.
Well, I think they should think twice about that. That's my opinion. What is wrong with self-defense? I don't understand it. How is that not Christian?
Nothing, just not in the churches. Now, there's scriptural reference that's very specific on this issue. It's in the Book of Mormon, and the saints are being persecuted and they're being killed for their beliefs. And one of the prophets can stretch forth his hand and keep them from being killed. But the Holy Spirit says...
Well, I'm not a Mormon in that case. I'm an Old Testament type of guy. I'd like to see a guard at the front door with an Uzi or whatever they can use today.
But there's an interesting...
how come in Israel they believe in having a guard at the front of the synagogues after so many wonderful practitioners of the religion of peace known as Islam slaughtered Jews in synagogues? How come they decided that they would rather have someone there with a gun? How did that happen?
I think they're letting worshipers in with weapons either. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, I'm not here to argue with you, my friend. I'm sure we're on the same page when it comes to value systems. I say bring weapons to churches. My friend, I'm sending you my novel, Countdown to Mecca, for Father's Day. Who do you blame for the shooting in South Carolina is the issue. Helter Skelter. That's what this maniac wanted.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture, and here he is, Michael Savage.
Talking about the devil who killed those innocent black people. And I'm relating it to the Charles Manson theory of helter-skelter to start a race war in America, because this punk said that he wanted to start a civil war. Do you know that or not? That's been left out of all of the news reports except one. He's the Charles Manson of our time. Only he's committed a crime, murder's worse than what Manson did. I'm surprised no one in the media has noticed this. I'm sure it'll be on Fox and Friends before it leaves my mouth. And I'm sure the leg crossers will have it by tonight. I'm positive Martha Washington will make reference to it, ripping me off as usual. But okay, doesn't matter what people do. As Lao Tzu said, it doesn't matter who rips your ideas off as long as your ideas are used. I am telling you, this guy is the Charles Manson of our time. It's like history repeating itself. It's the scenario that Charles Manson wanted to start a race war, which he called helter-skelter, which was committing these horrible murders in the Hollywood Hills and then blaming it on blacks. And then there would be a murderous rampage against blacks by frightened whites. Well, now it's the reverse. And we're all fearing a murderous rampage against whites by blacks to provoke an internecine war of near extermination. That's what we could have happen here in this country right now. Make no mistake about it. You may think it's behind us. You're mistaken. Oh, I wish I could sit here like a Pollyanna and say it's going to be forgotten. It won't be forgotten. It won't be forgotten. And by the way, it shouldn't be forgotten. I didn't say that there should be murders in reaction to the murders. No, but I said it will not be forgotten, nor should it not be forgotten. These were the bedrock of the African American community. They were the bedrock, the granite, part of the granite of America. Granite is a multicolored stone. Granite. Look at granite. Gray, black, white, right? That's granite. They were part of the granite of America. And this subhuman blew away a big portion of the granite of this country. It's not going to heal so quickly. Don't fool yourself. You may think it's in the news cycle and it's over. But I don't live with the memory of a goldfish. I grew up in another generation. And I don't think everyone in this country has the mindset of a millennial who's already moved on to something else. So who do you blame? Everyone's got someone to blame. Harvey Weinstein, Katzenberg, Matzenberg, Ratzenberg, Spielberg. Violence, 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 violence. And then preaching about peace. Don't you just love it? Don't you just love it? Sean Penn, Mr. Peacenik, Mr. Anti-Gun, does his last bomb called Gunman, waving a gun around, that impotent fool, running around with a psycho actress to show how potent he is. It's so patently clear to me how sick these people are. And don't think they're not the devils. They are. And don't think they have nothing to do with this violence. They do. Okay, yes, then there's politics. Some will blame conservatives. Some will blame liberals. Some will blame this one. Some will blame that one. Fingers will point in all directions. That's exactly what Charles Manson wanted. And that's exactly what this punk wanted. Make no mistake about it. Now, will cool heads prevail? I hope so. I would put a restraining order on Al Sharpton. I wouldn't let him cross state lines to incite a riot. I mean, if President Obama really wanted to stop repercussions from this tragedy, I would say this Holocaust against the black community really is what it is. 9 in one church? Wow. If Obama really wanted to stop it, if Attorney General Lynch wanted to stop it, they would put a restraining order on Al Sharpton and all the other race baiters who went to Ferguson and went to Baltimore. And they can do it. There's a federal law in the books, by the way, that would prevent those troublemakers from crossing state lines to incite a riot. She could do it. Let's see if she's real. Let's see how real Loretta Lynch is in preventing these troublemakers from crossing state lines to start a riot in South Carolina. That's all she has to do is say, hey, I'm Attorney General. No one's coming from out of state to start a riot in this state. And if you show up anywhere near it, we're going to arrest you under a federal anti-riot statute, which exists, by the way. It was passed in the 60s to stop this from happening. I haven't heard Loretta Lynch say that, strangely enough. Haven't heard Obama mention it. He dashed off to a fundraiser with the important people from Hollywood. Oh, while the missus and the children are on a shopping trip in Rome. That's right, at your expense, once again abusing us, spitting on us. You think that we're not full of resentment for what this man is doing? You think we don't see it? I see it. If I see it, you see it. It's that simple. Now, I know you want to talk, and that's good. That's good. There's so many problems in this country right now. From so many causes, it's hard to believe. Company that got millions from U.S. taxpayers now profits Chinese owners. Did you hear about this one? Oh, it didn't make it to your desk at AP? The good news is electric car battery maker A123 Systems is back to turn a profit. The bad news is taxpayers don't figure to see any of the $133 million of the federal government spent and the estimated $140 million in tax credits and subsidies secured from Michigan to help the company take off in 2009, only to see the company crash, declare bankruptcy, and then get bought out by a privately held Chinese conglomerate. Did you hear this? Didn't hear Obama talk about that, exporting jobs, sending money to foreign companies, flooding America with illegal aliens. Haven't heard about that one. Yep. 855-407-282. I could play Obama, but I don't think I want to. I really can't avoid. I can't take the anger right now. He blamed guns. Yeah, well, who else did he blame? Did he look in the mirror recently for what he's been doing to trigger hatred in the country? Has he taken a good look in the mirror while shaving in the morning? All right, let me take some calls. I've got some wonderful things to read, and at the bottom of the hour, Donald Trump to talk with us here on the Savage Nation. New York City, WABC. Kenny, thanks for being with us. What's your point?
As a black man myself, isn't this such a contradiction? You see a young white man sitting amongst elderly black people worshiping together. That's what Christianity is about. I was brought up in the church, and you see that picture. It's a beautiful thing, but then the contradiction is for him to sit there over an hour and to hear the word of God, which is what they must have been doing. That's what prayer service is. I grew up in the church. And to still go ahead and shoot these people, you have to be another type of evil, Dr. Savage. I mean, he couldn't have gone to the hood and taken out the worst, like you said, of the black community.
Right. If he was such a brave man who wanted to get even with blacks for whatever sick reasons, he could have gone into the hood and taken his gun out and seen what happened.
God, they're preaching that these elderly...
I'm heartbroken over this. You may not take this as sincerity and think I'm making it up just for effect. I got to tell you, I'm sick over it. I couldn't eat dinner last night. I couldn't sleep. I'm sick over it.
I have to be another type of evil to sit there over an hour to hear the word of God.
I don't understand it. I don't understand how a human can be like that. I see it going on in the Middle East, by the way. I see Muslims doing it to Muslims. I see Muslims doing it to Christians. I see Muslims doing it to Yazidis. So I know this evil exists. So obviously it's a universal evil.
And there's always an excuse. There was drugs. There's no excuse for it. Don't sell out. These people always got an excuse for them. Oh, there's just drugs.
Well, let me ask you, Kenny, you're a very rational man. We're not arguing at all. I made a statement that we should consider bringing weapons into churches to protect ourselves. Do you think I'm wrong?
I don't like guns. I've never picked up or touched a gun in my life, so I'm afraid of guns. I understand what you're saying.
All right, so let's say not the parishioner. What about a church getting someone at the front door with a weapon to protect them?
That's reasonable. That's logical. A security guard, someone who's trained with it.
Okay, fine. So let's have a security guard like the Israelis do at synagogues. Most of the Orthodox are afraid of guns in Israel. They're terrified of their own shadow. All they do is pray all day. So they now put armed guards at the front after the Muslims went in and slaughtered them most recently.
But as opposed to just everyone having a gun, that scares me a little bit. Certified.
I understand it would scare most people, but I'm not scared by that thought. But nevertheless, that's it's one man's opinion. Somebody's got to protect the churchgoers. Somebody has to step up, and whether we raise private funds to provide security for the churches now, and let's start with the black churches, but I don't think that they're the only ones at risk right now. To me, any church group, any synagogue is vulnerable right now to attack.
As a black man, I've also written to Al Sharpton, and I'm black. And now Al Sharpton does some good things for the black community, but I've written to him and told him, you can't just be upset only when something is done to a black person. If Martin Luther King was about all humanity, not only when something was done, but Al Sharpton has to be just as upset when a black person does something to a white person. And I'm a black person saying this. And I've written to him about that. You can't keep playing that game, and that's where he's wrong.
Well, we know he's a demagogue, and we know he's profited from racial division his entire life. He's made his fortune on racial division, as has his lousy lawyer. who's enmeshed in a rape accusation right now. These people have feasted on the racial divisions in America. It's shocking.